Part 1. The Modern Atlas and the Weight of Stability. There is a very strange, almost sacred moment that most adults over 40 know by heart, yet almost no one ever talks about. It's that brief, 5-minute downtime when you've turned off your car engine, but you aren't yet ready to open the door and walk into your own home. You sit there in the dim light of the garage or the driveway, and for those 5 minutes the world stops. You aren't anyone's boss. You aren't anyone's parent. You aren't someone's spouse or a neighbor or a citizen with duties. You are just you. And in that silence, you can clearly feel it, an invisible, immense weight pressing down on your chest. It isn't sadness. Sadness is a luxury you often don't have time for. And it isn't exactly stress. Stress is something you hope to fix with a weekend off. What you are feeling is the profound exhaustion of someone who has been pushing themselves for decades to play the role of the unshakable pillar. The modern atlas. You may not have a name for it, but your body does. It's the permanent tightness in your shoulders, the shallow breath you've forgotten how to deepen, and the way you stare into the dashboard's darkness, feeling that if you make even one wrong move, something massive will collapse. In Greek mythology, there is the figure of Atlas. Cursed by Zeus, he was forced to carry the entire celestial sphere on his shoulders for eternity. He was not allowed to slip. He was not allowed to rest. He was not allowed to fail. Because if Atlas lets go, the sky falls, and everything, every god, every human, every dream is crushed into dust. If you are watching this, and you have crossed the threshold of 30, 40, or 60, you are a modern-day Atlas. You didn't inherit the sky. You built it with your own bare hands. Your sky is the career you fought to establish, the mortgage you've spent years paying off, the children whose futures depend entirely on your stability, and the reputation of being the one who has it all figured out. You are proud of that sky. You love the people beneath it. But here is the terrifying truth we rarely admit. You have become a slave to the very order you created. You are exhausted not because you are weak, but because you are attempting the impossible. You are trying to control things that are, by the very laws of the universe, uncontrollable. The shift, offense to defense. Welcome to Quantum Files Awakening. Today, we are not going to offer you empty self-help platitudes or tell you to just relax. Instead, we are going to use the cold, hard laws of physics to dissect your pain and find a way to finally take that mountain off your shoulders. Think back to when you were 20. Life was an assault. You ventured out like a hunter. Risk was an adrenaline rush, and failure was just a story to tell over drinks. You had nothing to lose but your youth. But as you moved into your 30s and 40s, your entire psychological operating system shifted. You moved from offense to defense. Suddenly you had things. You had a coveted position at the firm, a home filled with expensive memories, children who need tuition for schools that promise them a better life, and an image in the community that you dare not tarnish. Your mind developed a high-functioning defense mechanism. On the outside, you are the architect of order. You have plan A, plan B, and a contingency for plan C. But inside, your brain is a radar station that never shuts down. You scan every horizon for threats. A late-night email from the CEO. A slight change in your spouse's tone. A headline about the stock market. You believe that if you think enough, worry enough, and exercise enough control, you can prevent the storm from hitting your house. You are trying to build the perfect sandcastle in the middle of a hurricane, using your own body as the shield. The entropy trap. But here is the cruelest paradox of human existence. The more you grip, the faster the sand slips through your fingers. This isn't a failure of your will. It is a conflict with the second law of thermodynamics. In physics, order is an unnaturally rigid state. Look at your home. To keep it clean, you must expend energy every single day. If you stop, the dust settles, the weeds grow, and the paint peels. A room never cleans itself, it only gets dirty. Your life is the same. To maintain the image of a successful life, you are burning an incredible amount of bioenergy every waking second. But notice where that energy is going. It isn't going into creativity or joy. It is going into resistance. You are resisting your own aging. You are resisting the changing personalities of your growing children. You are resisting the inevitable chaos of the marketplace. You are trying to freeze time at its most perfect moment. You have become a closed system, and in physics, a closed system that refuses to exchange energy with the outside world is doomed to one fate: entropy. Pattern interrupt. Imagine for a moment that the very thing you fear, the chaos, the change, the loss of control, is actually the only thing that can save you. The legacy audit. As we begin this journey through the quantum files, I want you to look at that invisible rock on your shoulders. Ask yourself, how much of this weight is actually yours, and how much of it is a ghost you're trying to keep alive? We've been taught that control equals safety. But tonight, we will prove that control is actually the shortest path to exhaustion. We will look into the eyes of the man who discovered the end of the universe, Ludwig Boltzmann, and understand why his greatest discovery led him to the brink of despair, and how it can lead you to the pinnacle of freedom. If you are tired of being Atlas, stay with us. The sky isn't going to fall. It was never your job to hold it up in the first place. Part 2. Ludwig Boltzmann and the Science of Chaos. The tombstone in Vienna. In the central cemetery of Vienna, there is a very special grave. It belongs to Ludwig Boltzmann, a man who, in a sense, saw the end of the universe before anyone else did. On his tombstone, there are no flowery poems, no list of grand titles, and no sentimental farewells. There is only a short, cold line of mathematics. S equals K times the logarithm of W. To most passers-by, it looks like a cryptic code. But to a physicist, this is the most terrifying and powerful sentence ever written. While Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, tells us where energy comes from, Boltzmann's formula tells us how everything, your career, your body, your stars, and your very memories will inevitably end. Boltzmann discovered a truth that eventually drove him into a deep, dark depression. The universe does not favor order. The universe is addicted to chaos. And you, as a tiny entity living within this universe, are trying to fight a law that is more fundamental than gravity itself. Why the universe loves mess. Let's look at a simple scene. Imagine you are holding a beautiful ceramic bowl, an heirloom, perfect in its symmetry. You drop it. It shatters into 1,000 jagged pieces on the floor. Now, if you were to record that moment and play the video in reverse, you would see the pieces spontaneously leap off the floor and reassemble into a perfect bowl in your hand. You laugh because you know that's impossible. It's illogical. But here is the secret. Newton's laws of motion don't actually forbid it. Mathematically, the atoms in those shards could all decide to move in the exact opposite direction at the exact same time. So why doesn't it ever happen? Why have you never seen a broken glass unbreak? The answer is entropy, and it is governed by a sheriff called probability. Think of a deck of 52 playing cards. If you toss that deck into the air, how many ways are there for the cards to land in a perfect, neat stack, arranged from ace to king by suit? There is only one way. But how many ways are there for them to land in a chaotic, messy pile? Billions upon billions of ways. Order is a state with extremely low probability. Chaos is a state with extremely high probability. The universe isn't trying to make your life difficult. It is simply following the math. Things naturally fall into the most likely state, and that state is disintegration. This is why building a reputation takes 20 years, but destroying it takes one sentence. This is why trust is hard to construct, but doubt is effortless. Collapse is simply the path of least resistance. The arrow of time in the human heart. This brings us to the most painful thing entropy has ever gifted to humanity, the arrow of time. Have you ever wondered why time only moves forward? Why can we remember the past with such vivid detail, but the future remains a blank fog? In the world of subatomic particles, there is no real distinction between past and future. But for us beings made of trillions of atoms, time is a one-way street. Time is effectively the rate at which entropy increases. We age because our cells accumulate errors, biological chaos. We forget memories because the neural connections in our brains break down information chaos. Your deepest feeling of regret is, in its essence, a physical awareness of the irreversible nature of entropy. You cannot go back to fix a mistake because spilled water cannot be gathered back into the glass without spending more energy than the water is worth. The fatal struggle. Now, look back at your life through this lens. When you try to control your family, when you try to cling desperately to your youth, or when you force your business to stay exactly the same year after year, you are trying to swim against the massive current of the entire universe. You are using the limited power of a human being who lives for maybe 80 years to fight against the momentum of a 14 billion-year-old system. It's like trying to stop an avalanche with a handheld shield. You might hold it back for a second, but the pressure will eventually crush your bones. Boltzmann understood this. He understood that the order we cherish, the cities we build, the logic we use is just a tiny, temporary bubble of low probability in a vast, dark ocean of chaos. He felt the weight of this truth so heavily that he took his own life in 1906, unable to reconcile his human need for meaning with the universe's demand for disorder. The loophole open loop. But wait, if the universe is always heading toward chaos, why does life exist at all? Why did humans' complex, highly organized machines come into being? Is life a violation of the law of entropy? The answer is no. Life is not an exception to the law. Life is the universe's most cunning loophole, and the price we pay for our order is much higher than you think. To understand why your brain feels like it's overheating, and why your attempts to sort your life are actually making the chaos worse, we have to meet a strange creature from the 19th century. A creature that lives in a box and guards a door. A creature that explains why your high-functioning anxiety is literally burning you alive. In the next part, we meet Maxwell's demon, and we will finally reveal the hidden energy tax you are paying for every single thought you try to control. Part 3, Maxwell's demon, the hidden cost of cleaning. The revolt against fate. To understand our own tragedy, we must travel back to the year 1867. This was the era when the second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, had just been finalized, casting a terrifying shadow over the scientific world. Scientists realized that the universe was a clock winding down, a fire slowly turning to cold ash. But one man refused to accept this cosmic death sentence. James Clerk Maxwell, one of the greatest minds to ever walk the earth, decided to challenge the universe to a duel. He asked, if humans are intelligent enough, can we trick entropy? Can we use information to defeat chaos? To prove his point, he designed one of the most famous thought experiments in history, Maxwell's demon, a perfect trap to hold chaos captive. The demon at the gate. Imagine a sealed box filled with turbulent air. The gas molecules inside are flying around haphazardly, colliding with each other in total disorder. Some particles are flying very fast, they are hot, and others are moving slowly, they are cold. In nature, they mix together to create a stable, lukewarm temperature. Now, Maxwell imagined a tiny creature, a demon, standing at a small, weightless door, dividing the box into two compartments, A and B. The demon's job is simple but exhausting. It observes every single particle. When it sees a hot particle heading toward the door from the right, it quickly flips the door open, letting it into compartment A. When it sees a cold particle, it slams the door shut, trapping it in compartment B. The demon works meticulously, second by second, with absolute precision. After some time, a miracle occurs. Compartment A becomes intensely hot, and compartment B becomes freezing cold. The demon has separated order from chaos. It has reduced the entropy of the box without, seemingly, doing any work in the traditional sense. Maxwell seemed to have proven that intelligence plus control equals victory over nature. This was the great hope of humanity. We thought, if we can just be smart enough, organize enough, and manage enough, we can freeze happiness and stop the decay of our lives. The hidden price of information. For nearly 100 years, this experiment haunted the world's most brilliant physicists. No one could find a flaw in the demon's logic. It seemed that control was indeed the master key to the universe. But in 1961, a physicist at IBM named Rolf Landauer finally exposed the secret that the demon and all of us had been hiding. Landauer realized that the demon is not a god. It is a physical entity. To sort those particles, the demon's brain must do three things: observe, store, and erase. The demon has a limited memory. To keep sorting new particles, it must constantly erase the old information about where the previous particles were. And here is Landauer's principle, the law that changes everything. Information is physical. Landauer proved that you cannot erase a single bit of information without consuming energy and releasing heat into the environment. To create order inside the box, the demon's brain has to heat up. The chaos it removes from the box doesn't disappear, it is simply transferred into the demon's own nervous system. The universe still wins. Overall entropy still increases. The demon didn't defeat chaos, it just swallowed it. The demon in the mirror. Now, step away from the physics lab for a moment and look in the mirror. The person looking back at you is Maxwell's demon. Your life, with all its pressures, bills, social expectations, and family dramas, is that chaotic box. And you have spent the last 20, 30, or 50 years standing guard at the gate of your mind, sorting frantically. Every day, life throws billions of particles at you. A critical comment from a coworker, a sudden bill, a moment of self-doubt, a spark of joy, and you, the high-functioning controller, begin the sorting process. When you feel a negative particle sadness, anger, or fear, you slam the door shut. You tell yourself, I don't have time for this. You suppress the emotion. You clean your external image to look professional, stable, and strong. You believe that by keeping the mess out of sight, you are creating an orderly life. But remember Landauer's principle. Erasing information generates heat. Every time you suppress an emotion, every time you erase your true feelings to maintain a polished facade, you are generating internal heat. That sadness you swallowed didn't vanish. It converted into tension in your nervous system. That anger you stifled didn't go away. It turned into biological pressure. This is why people who appear the most in control, the CEOs, the perfect parents, the relentless achievers, are often the ones who are the most burned out inside. Their internal cooling systems are running at 110% capacity, trying to manage the heat of 1,000 suppressed, messy particles. The biology of repression. Let's talk about your body, the hardware of the demon. Your stomach acid reflux, your persistent tension headaches, that feeling of a knot in your chest that won't go away even on vacation, these aren't just medical symptoms. They are the exhaust heat of your attempts to control the uncontrollable. You have tried to keep the outside world orderly and perfect by pushing all the chaos inside yourself. You don't allow your children to see you cry. You don't allow your employees to see you fail. You don't even allow yourself to admit you're scared. If you continue to live as a miniature Maxwell's demon, guarding the gate day and night, eventually the core will melt. In nuclear engineering, when a reactor generates heat faster than it can be released, the structure warps and collapses. In human life, we call this the core meltdown. The core meltdown open loop. How much longer can your biological machine last under this pressure? You think you are being strong by holding it all in, but physics says you are actually just accumulating a debt that your body will eventually collect. We are approaching the most dangerous part of our journey. We are going to look at what happens when the demon finally collapses. What happens when the high-functioning version of you hits a wall that no amount of planning can overcome. In the next part, we will analyze the physics of burnout. We will discover that exhaustion isn't about working too hard, it's about resisting too much. And we will learn the emergency signal your body is sending you right now, a signal that most of us mistake for a disaster, but which is actually the first step toward a radical quantum awakening. Get ready. We are about to release the valve. Part 4. The physics of burnout and the clogged reactor. The core meltdown. In the world of nuclear engineering, there is a specific scenario that keeps every technician awake at night. It isn't the lack of fuel. Reactors have plenty of that. The nightmare is a failure of the cooling system. When the pumps stop and the water ceases to flow, the heat generated by the core has nowhere to go. The temperature soars. The steel casings begin to warp. The concrete cracks. Eventually, the inevitable happens, a meltdown. The system consumes itself from the inside out. In our modern human life, we have a name for this that sounds much more mundane: burnout. But make no mistake, burnout is not ordinary fatigue. If you are between 30 and 70 years old, you have felt the difference. Fatigue is like running out of gas. You park the car, you refuel with a good night's sleep, and the next morning you are ready to drive again. But burnout is when the engine itself has melted. You can fill the tank with as much self-care, vacations, or sleep as you want, but the car won't move because the internal structure has lost its integrity. From the perspective of thermodynamics, burnout is a miniature form of thermal death occurring within your biological system. Resistance, the silent energy thief. Why does this happen to the strongest among us? To the most responsible, the most dedicated? The answer lies in how you use your energy. Most of us believe that we are tired because we work too much. We blame the long hours, the emails, and the chores. But physics tells a different story. You aren't exhausted by what you do. You are exhausted by what you resist. Think about a light bulb. A 100-watt bulb produces light, but it also produces a tremendous amount of heat. That heat is waste energy caused by resistance in the filament. Your life is currently full of high-resistance filaments. You resist your boss's incompetence. You resist your teenager's rebellion. You resist the slow decline of your own physical strength. You resist the fact that your marriage isn't what it used to be. Every time you say, "This shouldn't be happening," or "I have to fix this right now," you are tightening the filament. You are creating friction against the flow of reality. When you live as a closed system, trying to keep everything inside your walls stable, orderly, and unchanging, you are essentially clogging your own cooling vents. You are acting as the Maxwell's demon we discussed in the last part, frantically trying to sort the messy parts of life into a dark corner of your mind. But erasing that mess generates heat. The more you try to appear fine, the more internal heat you produce. The vacation paradox. Have you ever noticed that you often get sick the moment you finally take a holiday? Or that you spend your entire week in Hawaii thinking about the problems you left back at the office? This is the vacation paradox. You moved your body to a beautiful beach, but you took your closed system with you. You brought the demon and the box. Because your internal mechanism is still set to control mode, you cannot exchange energy with the ocean or the sun. You are still sorting. You are still resisting. This is the state of the office zombie. You see them every morning at the coffee shop, men and women in their 40s and 50s, impeccably dressed, holding expensive phones, but with eyes that look like blown-out fuses. They are not living. They are merely maintaining the status quo. They are spending 99% of their life force just to keep the sky from falling, leaving 1% for actual joy. The legacy audit, the weight of the ghosts. Let's perform a deeper audit of the legacy you are protecting. Ask yourself, who am I doing this for? Is the order you are killing yourself to maintain actually serving the people you love? Or are you protecting a ghost? Many of us are holding up a sky of expectations that our parents gave us 30 years ago, parents who may not even be here anymore. We are maintaining a successful image for neighbors we don't even like. We fear that if we let the entropy in, if we admit we are struggling, if we let the house get messy, if we let the business pivot, that we will lose our value. We treat our lives like a museum where everything must stay behind glass, untouched by time. But a museum is a place for things that are already dead. Living things grow. And growth, by definition, is a form of ordered chaos. A forest is messy, decaying, and vibrant all at once. It is an open system. The emergency signal. Your exhaustion is not a sign that you need to try harder. It is an emergency signal from the universe screaming in your ear, "Stop, you are swimming against the wind." In physics, when a system reaches maximum entropy, it either dissolves or it transforms. Your current state of burnout is the dissolution phase. You feel like you are falling apart because the old structure, the one based on control, repression, and resistance, can no longer sustain itself. The heat is too high. The walls are melting. But here is the secret that physics only recently discovered. In the ruins of a collapsed system, a new kind of order can emerge. An order that doesn't require control. An order that thrives on the very chaos that is currently terrifying you. Beyond the box, open loop. If you are at the point of meltdown, I have a message for you. Let it melt. The you that is trying to control everything needs to die so that the you that can actually live can be born. We are about to move from the tragedy of the closed system to the miracle of the open system. In the next part, we will look at the work of Ilya Prigogine, a man who won a Nobel Prize for proving that chaos is not the end, it is the beginning. We will learn how to stop being a storage container and start being a whirlpool. We are going to teach you the most sophisticated survival strategy in the known universe, becoming a dissipative structure. Prepare yourself. We are about to open the vents and let the universe breathe through you. Part 5. Laplace's Demon and the Illusion of the 5-Year Plan. The arrogance of the spreadsheet. Why do you know that letting go is good, but you find it impossible to do? Why, even after seeing how control leads to burnout, do you still wake up at 3 a.m. obsessing over what might happen 6 months from now? It's because deep within the modern human psyche, there is a virus that was implanted in the 19th century and has since become the god of our secular world. It is the unwavering belief that if you are smart enough, fast enough, and have enough data, you can calculate your way to a perfect life. To attain the freedom we are seeking, we must shatter the greatest illusion of Western science. We must meet the third and final demon of our journey, the demon of Laplace. The Clockwork Universe. In 1814, in a dimly lit office in Paris, the great mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace wrote an audacious declaration that would define the next 200 years of human effort. He imagined an entity, an all-powerful intelligence that knew the precise position and velocity of every single atom in the universe at one specific moment. Laplace stated that for such an intelligence, nothing would be uncertain. The future, just like the past, would be laid bare before its eyes. To Laplace, the universe was not a wild living thing. It was a giant mechanical clock. If you know how the gears are turning today, you can predict exactly where the hands will point in 1,000 years. Whether you realize it or not, you are a secret worshiper of Laplace's demon. You live your life based on absolute faith in calculation. You believe that life is a linear equation where input A, representing hard work, added to input B, representing detailed planning, must inevitably lead to output C, which is guaranteed happiness. You believe that if you map out your children's education, your retirement fund, and your career trajectory with enough detail, you can become the oracle of your own destiny. But history has proven Laplace wrong, and your current anxiety is the ultimate proof that you are also wrong. The flap of a butterfly's wing. In the 20th century, a new branch of science emerged that delivered a devastating blow to our ambitions of total control: chaos theory. It started with a meteorologist named Edward Lorenz. While running weather simulations on a computer, he discovered something that sent chills down his spine. He found that a tiny change in the initial data, a change as small as a decimal point in the 6th place, could lead to a completely different result. This is what we now call the butterfly effect. The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil could, through a complex chain of events, trigger a tornado in Texas a month later. In a system as complex as the weather or a human life, small uncertainties don't cancel each other out. They amplify. What does this mean for your 5-year plan? It means you are trying to steer an ocean liner through a thick, impenetrable fog, while your vision only extends exactly 5 meters in front of the bow. Science calls this sensitivity to initial conditions. I prefer to call it intellectual incompetence. It is the universe's way of telling us, you are not the director of this movie. The audit of accidents. Let's perform an honest audit of your life. Take a moment to look back at the biggest, most defining turning points you've experienced. Did you plan to meet your spouse on that exact day, at that exact time, as part of your strategic social goals? Or was it a series of accidental coincidences, a missed bus, a last-minute invitation from a friend you almost declined, a spilled drink? Your current job, the house you live in, the health scares you've survived, the books that changed your soul, almost none of these were the result of a spreadsheet. They were the result of billions of butterflies flapping their wings in the chaos of the world. When you try to control the future, when you try to force the universe to follow your map of stability, you are essentially trying to predict the weather for the next century. Your arrogance is your prison. The security you feel is just a fragile lull between 2 major storms of entropy. The centipede's dilemma. There is an old Eastern fable that perfectly captures the tragedy of the modern, overanalyzing mind. A centipede was moving gracefully, its 100 legs dancing in perfect, unconscious rhythm. A frog sitting by the roadside, curious and perhaps a bit jealous, asked, "Mr. Centipede, I admire your grace, but tell me, when you take your 37th step, what is your 82nd leg doing? And how do you know to lift your 19th leg before your 45th? The centipede stopped. It had never thought about it. It began to analyze. It tried to use its conscious mind to coordinate its legs. Okay, leg 1 goes here, leg 2 goes there. And in that moment of total control, the centipede became paralyzed. Its legs tangled. It tripped over its own intelligence. It lay there, unable to move a single inch. We are that centipede. We possess survival instincts, deep intuition, and a natural ability to flow with life. But we have used our limited logical intelligence to brutally interfere with the sophisticated workings of the universe. We analyze our sleep to the point of insomnia. We analyze our diets to the point of eating disorders. We analyze our relationships until the love dies on the operating table. The inverse law. The philosopher Alan Watts called this the backwards law. He observed that when you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink. But when you try to sink, when you completely relax, you float. The desire for a positive experience is, in itself, a negative experience. Why? Because it highlights the fact that you don't have it yet. Conversely, the acceptance of a negative experience is, in itself, a positive experience. True strength doesn't come from gripping the steering wheel until your knuckles turn white. Strength comes from the ability to let go of the rudder when the storm is too big, trusting that the boat was built to float. The Whirlpool Preview Open Loop. So if the demon of Laplace is a lie, and if we cannot calculate our way to safety, what is the alternative? If we aren't supposed to be the engineers of our lives, what are we supposed to be? We are approaching the turning point of our journey. We have spent 4 parts understanding the pain. Now, we begin the liberation. In the next part, we will move from the dead box of control to the living flow of reality. We will explore the Nobel Prize-winning science of dissipative structures. You are about to learn why a tornado is more stable than a rock, and how you can find peace by becoming a whirlpool in the river of time. The gates are opening. Are you ready to flow? Part 6. Dissipative structures becoming the whirlpool. The third way. We have spent a long time dissecting the tragedy of the human condition. We've seen how our obsession with stability turns us into weary atlases, how our attempts to sort our lives burn us out like Maxwell's demon, and how our 5-year plans are shattered by the chaotic flapping of a butterfly's wing. If you feel a sense of hopelessness right now, that is actually a good sign. It means the closed system of your old ego is finally beginning to crack. But what lies beyond the crack? If we aren't supposed to be rigid fortresses, are we just supposed to be victims of the storm? Nature suggests a third way, a way that is infinitely smarter, softer, and more sustainable than anything the human ego could ever invent. To find it, we must look at the work of Ilya Prigogine, the chemist who won the Nobel Prize in 1977 for discovering the secret of life within the laws of chaos. He introduced the world to a concept that will change the way you look at your stress forever, the dissipative structure. The lesson of the tornado. Prigogine discovered that the most resilient and beautiful systems in the universe are not the ones that try to stay fixed or stable. In fact, in a universe of entropy, anything that tries to stay fixed is already dying. Instead, he looked at things like whirlpools, tornadoes, and living cells. Think about a whirlpool in a river. From a distance, it looks like a solid, imposing object. It has a clear shape, a center, and a terrifying power. You might even call it stable. But what exactly is a whirlpool? Is it a thing? No. A whirlpool is a process. If the river stops flowing, the whirlpool vanishes instantly. The whirlpool exists only because it is constantly drawing in water from one side and releasing it out the other at an incredible rate. This is a dissipative structure. It is a structure that maintains its order by dissipating energy. It stays stable precisely because it is in a state of constant high-speed change. It doesn't fight the current. It is the current organized into a higher form. You are not a container. Here is the revelation for your life. You were never designed to be a storage container. You were not meant to be a thermos flask that keeps its contents at a static temperature. You were designed, by the very laws of physics, to be a conduit. Your body is the ultimate dissipative structure. Every second, you are exchanging trillions of atoms with the environment. You breathe in oxygen, it fuels your cells, and you breathe out carbon dioxide. If you try to control your breath, if you hold it in, to keep that precious oxygen for yourself, you die. Life exists only in the exchange. You eat food, your body extracts the energy, and then it must release the waste. If the output is blocked, you become poisoned. This is a physical law. but it is also a psychological and spiritual law that most of us over the age of 40 have forgotten. Emotional constipation. The reason you are exhausted is that you have become emotionally constipated. You allow the input of life, the stress, the joys, the criticisms, the beauty to come in, but you don't allow it to flow through. When someone insults you, you catch that particle of anger and you lock it in a room in your mind. You ruminate on it. You store it. When you see something beautiful, you try to capture it on your phone rather than feeling it and letting it go. You are trying to build a static collection of experiences. But a dissipative structure doesn't collect. A whirlpool doesn't try to keep the water it had 5 seconds ago. It lets it go so that new water can bring new energy. Pattern interrupt. Look at your current midlife crisis or your burnout not as a failure, but as what Prigogine called a bifurcation point. In physics, when a dissipative structure is pushed to its limit by too much energy or chaos, it reaches a tipping point. It can either collapse into total disorder, or it can spontaneously reorganize into a higher level of complexity. Your pain is the signal that you are ready to reorganize. You are being pushed to stop being a rigid rock and start being a dynamic flow. The art of being a conduit. So how do we practically become a whirlpool? How do we live as a dissipative structure in a world that demands we be stable? It starts with a radical shift in perspective. Nothing is mine to keep. When money comes to you, see yourself as a channel for that money to do work in the world, not just a vault to store it. When a difficult emotion arises, fear about the future, grief over a loss, don't try to fix it or hide it. Let it move through your body. Feel the heat of the anger, the coldness of the fear. Let it dissipate. If you don't resist it, it will pass through you like water through a whirlpool, leaving your structure stronger than before. This is the secret of the world's most attractive and energetic people. They aren't strong because they have a thick shell. They are strong because they are transparent. Energy flows through them without getting stuck. They don't have ego clogs in their system. The legacy audit, what remains in the flow. In our legacy audit, we must ask, at the end of your life, what will remain? If you spent your life as a closed box, you will leave behind a pile of dusty possessions and a worn-out body. But if you live as a flow, you leave behind a movement. You leave behind the way you made people feel, the energy you shifted, and the seeds of awakening you planted in others. A whirlpool doesn't leave a hole in the river when it's gone. It has already contributed its motion to the entire stream. The shadow of the end, open loop. But I know the fear is still there. Even if we become a whirlpool, isn't the river still heading toward a waterfall? Doesn't the law of entropy say that eventually all movement must stop? We have reached the most profound part of our exploration. We have learned how to live, but now we must learn how to face the end. We are going to fly to the very end of time, to a place physicists call heat death. In the next part, we will look directly into the great silence of the universe's final moments. And there, in the coldest, darkest reaches of physics, we will find the ultimate, warm embrace of liberation. We will discover why the fact that nothing lasts forever is not a tragedy, but the greatest gift you will ever receive. Prepare your soul. We are going to the end of everything to find the beginning of yourself. Part 7. The heat death and the ultimate liberation. The final waterfall. We have learned how to live as a whirlpool in the river of life. We have learned to let energy flow through us, to stop being a closed box, and to embrace the creative chaos of being a dissipative structure. But as we sit in the quiet of our own minds, a darker question inevitably ripples to the surface. Even if I become the perfect whirlpool, isn't the river still heading toward a waterfall? If everything is ruled by entropy, then isn't the final destination just nothingness? This is the ultimate fear, that keeps the modern atlas awake. We fear that our efforts, our love, our legacy, and our very existence are being written in sand on a beach where the tide is coming in. To find the final piece of our liberation, we must look directly into the sun. We must travel to the very end of time, to the scenario physicists call the heat death of the universe. The Great Silence. According to the second law of thermodynamics, the universe is expanding and cooling every single second. Imagine the cosmos as a giant room where the heaters are slowly being turned off. In a future so distant the human mind cannot even fathom the numbers, the universe will reach its state of maximum entropy. One by one, the stars will run out of fuel and fade into darkness. The black holes, the final titans of space, will slowly evaporate into Hawking radiation. All movement will stop. There will be no more heat, no more light, no more gravity, and no more time as we know it. The entire, vast universe will sink into a state of eternal, cold, and dark equilibrium. Many call this the end of the world. It is the grand finale of entropy. But those who have awakened, those who understand the true language of nature, call it by a different, more poetic name, the Great Silence. Why we fear the void. Why does the thought of this great silence make us shudder? It is because our ego is built on the idea of permanence. We want our buildings to stand forever, our names to be remembered for centuries, and our love to be eternal. We treat life like a race to see who can carry the most baggage through the final hurdle. But look closely at that great silence. In that void, there are no deadlines to meet. There is no pressure to succeed. There is no need for wealth, no hunger for recognition, no pain of betrayal, and no torment from past mistakes. There is no ego left to strain itself trying to prove its importance. The heat death is the universe's way of returning to a state of perfect peace. It is the ultimate letting go. And if the ultimate destination of the entire cosmos is dissolution, then the meaning of your life cannot possibly be found in the outcome. The melody vs. the last note. Imagine you are listening to a masterpiece by Beethoven. What is the purpose of the music? Is the goal of the symphony to reach the final note? If the result, or the end, was the only thing that mattered, then the fastest orchestra in the world would be the best orchestra. We would just play the final chord and go home. But we don't do that. We listen to the music for the melody. We enjoy the highs, the lows, the driving choruses, and even the moments of silence in between. The purpose of the music is to be played. The purpose of a dance is not to reach a specific spot on the floor. It is to dance. Pattern interrupt. Your life is not a project to be completed. It is a song to be sung. The law of entropy, which dictates that everything must eventually fade, is actually the very thing that makes the song beautiful. The beauty of the withering rose. Think about a rose. If a rose were made of plastic and lasted for 1,000 years, would you stop to admire it? Would you breathe in its scent with the same intensity? Probably not. We find the rose precious precisely because it is fragile. We love it because we know that in 3 days, its petals will brown and fall. Impermanence is the spice of reality. It is the fact that your child will only be 5 years old for exactly 365 days that makes that year so magical. It is the fact that you will only have this specific sunset once in your entire life that makes it worth watching. If life were absolutely safe and lasted forever, it would be a stagnant, gray prison. Entropy is the wind that clears away the old to make room for the new. It is the force that ensures every moment is limited edition. The legacy audit, the eternal now. In our final legacy audit, let us redefine what lasts. You have spent decades trying to build a solid legacy, money in the bank, titles on the wall. But in the great silence, those things evaporate. The only legacy that truly resonates through the quantum field is the quality of your presence. How did you show up in the flow? Did you dance with the chaos, or did you fight it? The love you gave, the peace you felt, the moments you were truly awake, these are not things that can be lost. They are frequencies that you contributed to the music of the universe. You are no longer the atlas supporting the sky. You are a note in the symphony. And a note doesn't need to last forever to be perfect. It only needs to be played clearly, in its own time. The Dandelion's final act, open loop. We have faced the end of the universe and found that it is not a tragedy, but a liberation. We have realized that letting go is not a loss, but a return to our natural state of peace. But there is one final step. How do we take this cosmic truth and apply it to tomorrow morning? How do we live our daily lives with all their small annoyances and big fears as people who have looked into the great silence and smiled? In the final part of our journey, we will meet the most humble teacher of all. We will learn the Dandelion strategy. We will discover how to proactively disintegrate with grace and how to plant the seeds of your new, awakened life in the very wind that used to terrify you. The final ritual is about to begin. Are you ready to let the wind carry you? Part 8, the Dandelion strategy, proactive letting go. The return from the void. We have traveled to the very edge of existence. We have looked into the great silence of the universe's end and found not a tragedy, but the ultimate peace. We have realized that in a world governed by entropy, the only way to truly keep anything is to let it flow. But now, I want to bring you back from the cold stars and the mathematical formulas, back into your own body, sitting in your chair, breathing the air of this very moment. Because understanding the cosmos is meaningless unless it changes the way you look at your unwashed dishes, your stressful job, and the people you love. How do we live as awakened beings in a world that is still chaotic? How do we stop being Atlas without letting the sky fall? The answer lies in the most humble teacher you can find in any backyard, the Dandelion. The Dandelion strategy. Have you ever looked closely at a dandelion when the wind begins to blow? It is a masterpiece of fragile engineering. If the dandelion were a rock hard, rigid, and resistant, the wind would eventually erode it into dust. But the dandelion is different. When the wind of entropy arrives, the wind of change, loss, or age, the dandelion doesn't fight. It doesn't grip its petals until its knuckles turn white. Instead, it performs a radical act of proactive disintegration. It actively lets go. It allows the wind to tear it apart into 100 tiny seeds. To the untrained eye, the dandelion is dying. But to the eye of the physicist, the dandelion is expanding. By letting go of its form, it reaches lands it could never have reached if it stayed together. Its collapse is its greatest success. This is the secret for you, the modern Atlas. When life hits you with a failure, a health scare, or a transition you didn't ask for, don't build more walls. Don't try to be a rock. Learn the way of the dandelion. Let the impact tear through the hard outer shell of your ego, so that the seeds of wisdom and compassion hidden inside can finally fly out. Practicing WUWEINO in action. In the East, they call this Wu-Wei. It is often translated as doing nothing, but that is a mistake. Wu-Wei is action without friction. Imagine you are at your desk tomorrow morning. A stressful email arrives. Your old control system wants to react instantly, to sort the particle, to slam the door, to worry. That is rowing against the current. Instead, try the Wu-Wei response. Take one breath. Recognize the input as a natural part of the flow. Ask yourself, can I be the whirlpool here? Can I let this energy pass through me without getting stuck in my ego? You still answer the email, you still do the work, but you do it with the grace of a surfer, not the exhaustion of a slave. You start asking a different question every morning. Instead of what do I need to control today, Try asking, what can I let happen naturally today? Try letting your child make a mistake without correcting them immediately. Try letting a colleague be wrong without needing to prove you are right. Each small act of letting go is a biological command, telling your nervous system that you are safe. You are training your brain to trust the universe. The final legacy audit, the seed. As we conclude this journey, look one last time at the rock you've been carrying. If you are 30, 40, 50, or 70, you might be worried about what you are leaving behind. You want to leave a stable legacy. But remember Boltzmann and the heat death. The buildings will crumble. The money will be spent. The names will be forgotten. The only thing that truly survives the fire of entropy is the seed. The seed is the wisdom you've gained from your collapses. It's the peace you've found in the middle of the storm. It's the way you've taught others to breathe when the world feels heavy. Your legacy isn't the sky you held up. Your legacy is the freedom you found when you finally let it go. A call to awakening interactive moment. A dandelion needs the wind to fly, and a soul needs a declaration to be set free. Before you leave this video, I want us to perform a final ritual together, a physical act to anchor this awakening in your subconscious. I want you to go down to the comments right now. Don't just read them, contribute your energy to the flow. Write a simple sentence starting with these words. From today onwards, I choose. Perhaps it's, from today onwards, I choose to trust the flow. Or, from today onwards, I choose to live like a dandelion. Or simply, from today onwards, I choose to lower the rock. When you type those words and hit comment, you are geoing a seed. You are signaling to the world and to yourself that Atlas has retired. You are part of a community of people who are choosing to be whirlpools instead of boxes. Conclusion. The light of the mind. Thank you for being brave enough to stay with us until these very last moments. The fact that you are still here, listening to the silence between my words, shows that something inside you has already begun to shift. You are no longer the person who started this video. You have looked into the heart of physics and found your own soul. You have understood that the universe isn't a machine trying to break you. It is a symphony inviting you to play. This is Quantum Files Awakening. We don't just tell stories about the stars. We help you find the starlight within yourself. If this journey has moved you, if you feel even 1 gram lighter than you did an hour ago, then join our ecosystem. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell, not for us, but for your own continued awakening. We have many more secrets of the universe to share, and your presence makes the flow stronger. Lower the rock. Smile at the chaos. And remember, you are not carrying the sky. You are the sky. Wishing you a night of deep, peaceful sleep and a life of brilliant, effortless flow. I am the voice of Quantum Files. We will see you in the next awakening. Goodbye for now.